Live, that's the message. Yes, life is a banquet and most poor suckers are starving to death. Hi Book Dragons, it's Becky B the Book Dragon here. I'm actually going to be going over 2 reading challenges today. Of course, we have the ever popular PopSugar reading challenge. Now this time the layout of this is a little bit strange. I didn't quite understand why they did it like this, but if you look closely, it's supposed to be, it says cultivate your reading list and watch it bloom. So apparently this is supposed to be a fold out here so that you fold in these 2 pages together when you're done, and then you have these guys. You cut them out and you put them in your bouquet. As you can see, there's like little flowers for each of the challenges here, but it makes sense because the very first book task is a book where gardening or garden is central to the plot. So the first one, I'm going to be going over the reading challenge. The second will be my reading challenge directly from my website, and I'll show you a few books that I've already pulled out. I am trying to read through the books that I already own, and I'm also going to try to use books that are part of my research for my stories. So we will see. Anyway, so here it is. This is the PopSugar reading challenge. So because of the way my books are stacked next to me at the moment, I'm kind of going to be going out of order as I pull them. So let's take a look at this book here. I actually had, this was going to be part of last year's challenge where you had 2 books of the same title. This one is called The Last Man. The other one was called The Last Man by Mary Shelley. I didn't get a chance to even read that one because there was just so much detail. But this one is by P.T. Duderman, and this has to do with an investigation into what really happened at the siege of Masada. This one probably could go with book task number 2, which is a book that features a platonic friendship between a man and a woman, or it could be one on task number 23, a book you were hoping would fit into a prompt, but doesn't. So may or may not, it depends. Number 47, a book told entirely through letters. I have 2 recommendations. This is the Griffin and Sabine collection by Nick Bantock. And these are actual books that are interactive because you open them up and you could actually pull out letters and read them from each page. Some of them are postcards, and you read through each one and you just continue to read through. There's 6 to my knowledge in the entire collection, and I have all 6. So we have Griffin and Sabine, we have the Morning Star, Alexandria, the Griffin, the Golden Mean, and Sabine's Notebook. So these are 6 in the entire collection. I read a couple of them, and I've yet to read the others. The other one that I highly, highly, highly recommend. This is the shortest book that is not a children's book of my entire collection. This was so disturbing. This little book packs a punch. This one is called Address Unknown by Catherine Cressman Taylor. And the blurb is, this modern story is perfection itself. It is the most effective indictment of Nazism to appear in fiction. And what it is, it's this correspondence between a person who is in America and another person who is in Europe during the time of World War II. But the American happens to have a relative, I believe it's the daughter or the niece, who is in Europe at that time, and they're trying to, it starts off as a friendly correspondence, and then the conflict, the tension builds up until you get to the last page. Definitely I would recommend Address Unknown, once again by Catherine Cressman Taylor. Number 10, a book about a horse or with a horse on the cover. So there's a few that I can definitely tell you right off the bat. There's Black Beauty. There's Traveler by Richard Adams, which is about Robert Ely's Horse Traveler. There's Misty of Chincoteague, but I don't know if that's supposed to be, I don't recall that's a story of a horse or like a type of mini horse or something. I'm not 100% sure. I read this one years ago. This one is called King of the Wind, the story of the Godolphin Arabian. And again, it has to do with a beautiful horse. But due to the fact that I'm doing a research for a story that includes a type of maybe a possible ranch in this case, I actually have this book here that I bought from a book sale several years ago. This is the Revised Horseman's Scrapbook, and it's called Helpful Hints for Horsemen. So it's both about horses and it's with a horse on the cover, and it actually has like different ways of like roping, such as it talks about all the different types of tips for today's professional horsemen. So this is a first for me, learning about FOMO. I never heard of that acronym until I researched exactly what it is. So this one says, on task 31, a book that makes you feel FOMO. And FOMO in this case basically means fear of missing out. And the one that I recently just finished, that was the last book of the book challenge from last year that I ended up finishing. It's the Delegate Dream Department Store, where these 5 incredible dream makers sell dreams that people want to aspire to. So fear of missing out is sort of like, these are books, they talk about things where if you're thinking about where you could have been at this point, then why not take the chance and do it now? Don't ever have that fear of missing out. Go for it. Another one I highly recommend is Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. If you haven't read this book, you need to. And it's about this character named Nora Seed. At one point, she looks like she commits suicide, but then she wakes up in a mysterious library that keeps reappearing, and she lives all of these different lives. And at one point, the library is going to be destroyed, and now it's her turn to write her own story. It says here, between life and death, there is a library. Before you make that choice, think about what else could be out there. Another collection, which I am going to definitely take up the read for this one, is the series Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I read the first one, and now I want to read the next 3. Now, I've seen the film. It's my favorite classic film of all time, but my favorite story is about Auntie Mame. Well, these are 2 of the books that I own, and I've yet to read them. My dad was cracking up reading both of them at the same time. So we have Auntie Mame by Patrick Dennis, and we also have this one, Around the World with Auntie Mame. Well, who is Auntie Mame? She's like a godmother / aunt to Patrick Dennis, and her name is Mame Dennis, M-A-M-E, and she is a world traveler. She is not conservative whatsoever. She's very progressive, very, very liberal, and her famous line is, "Live, that's the message. Yes, life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death for want of it." And that's what she does. She lives for the moment, and she's not going to apologize for it, period. So she says, why not? Live, that's the message. So if you want an aunt who's going to get you off your feet, definitely check out Auntie Mame. And if you haven't seen the film, watch. I got a personal favorite. Rosalind Russell stole the show, and the film version with her is superb. There is another one with Lucille Ball, and no offense to Lucille Ball fans out there. I loved I Love Lucy, but Rosalind Russell, sorry, no comparison there. I didn't quite understand this one. This one is number 30, a travel ghost story. I guess a person takes a wild ride with ghosts or something. One where you can travel with ghosts is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And I didn't realize that I had this with me because I was using actually the illustrations for research. But this, this is a children's version of the Christmas Carol, but Jewish and Hanukkah style. This is Hanukkah Schmanukkah. And it's about this old miser who is guided by 3 ghosts. One from Hanukkah past, one from Hanukkah present, and one from Hanukkah in the future. And the story has to do with immigration and marriage and what the old miser is basically missing out. It says, good things happen from a little remembering. If anyone has any other suggestions, please let me know. So number 23 is a book you were hoping would fit into a prompt, but doesn't. Well, I had mentioned in one of my last videos that I am a Victorian fanatic. So I have Mrs. Sharp's Traditions, nostalgic suggestions for recreating the family celebrations and seasonal pastimes of the Victorian home. And it goes over the majority of the holidays in this one. This one couldn't fit into any of the prompts that I was looking at. And of course, we have my top personal favorite, the one that I recently got for my birthday. The most beautiful book places in the world. It's huge. It's heavy. It doesn't fit with any of the prompts. So I would love to read, like every day I want to read about the library places and give it a thumbs up if I would love to travel there. And maybe and no. So we'll see. Book task number 26, a book with a character who navigates infertility. There were a few books that I came across, but I'm going with the one that I didn't get to read for a couple of the reading challenges, which definitely meets this category. This one is called The Light Between Oceans. So back to book task number 1, a book where gardening or a garden is central to the plot. First of all, if you want to talk about one of the classic books of literature, The Secret Garden by Frances Burnett, the young Mary Lennox who comes to live at Misselthwaite Manor, where her uncle is a reclusive person. And she has no idea that she has a cousin who's been sort of kept in the dark. He's sort of a secret, but she's sort of like an extra burden to everyone. So she just goes around the estate and she happens to come across the secret garden, which bears a type of beautiful magic that she and her cousin and everyone else has yet to discover. I definitely would recommend that one. I love this. This is so cute. This is a children's book, Linnea in Monet's Garden. It's illustrated, but it also has like pictures of the original house and all. I mean, look at this. Here you have a picture of the painting, and here you can actually see the loaded brush stroke. I have been to Giverny. Oh my God. It is paradise on earth. Now, this one I got recently, and I believe this was at a book sale, possibly, or did I get this from, no, you know what? This was from the Open Book, and this is called Reflections of the Spirit, Japanese Gardens in America. I love the Japanese gardens, especially these, the Zen ones with the sand and the rocks. It's just absolutely, there's a beautiful symmetry to them that is so, I don't know. It's really calming. This one here is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. This takes place on the grounds of Blackhurst Manor. The main character, Cassandra, discovers the forgotten garden of the book's title and is able to unlock the secrets of the beautiful book of fairy tales. So this looks interesting. And then I got this because of Darling Desi. She recommended this one, The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady, and it does take place in her garden. And it's all these beautiful illustrations all throughout the entire year, from January all the way to December. But it's just, I love it. And it has, like, I think this is possibly a robin's nest on the front cover here. And it's just beautiful, beautiful colors. And what better book is there than task number 22, a book about a book club. Now, I had looked online to see if this one fit the bill, and it does. And it's a book I haven't read. My mother raves about it. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. This takes place on the island of Guernsey, and it does take place, and I want to say World War II. Now that I look at it, it looks like it's mostly about like a type of correspondence, perhaps. Because it says it takes place between Dear Miss Isola, Dear Miss Ashton, and Sally Frobisher, and several others. So you know what? I'm actually going to list a few books on here that I technically don't have, but I could get them from the library. Okay, A Book with a Dad as the Primary Caregiver. Definitely, I would recommend Silas Marner by George Eliot. And I believe The Godfather could also be a type of primary caregiver as well. Lord Craven from The Secret Garden could also be the father as the primary caregiver. And I believe it's Uncle Etienne in All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I believe those are more like the uncle figure, but they do play a father figure in there. Task number 15, A Book About New Beginnings. Now I have a couple here, both of which I have not. I believe I may have started on one of them like years ago when I was in college, but I didn't really read the entire thing. So let's start off with this one. We have another book by Gabrielle Zevin, The Storied Life of H.A. Fickery. And if I'm not mistaken, this is also a film was made out of this one. So, but it's all about a baby left in a bookstore, second chances, and finding room for all the books and all the love that transform our lives. So this is about new beginnings. Now, this one here is about a Russian immigrant that comes to America. He has to learn to assimilate, but it also discusses his fall from grace. And this is The Rise of David Levinsky by Abraham Cahan. Apparently, this was written by the founder and editor of the Jewish Daily Forward. This character, David Levinsky, it's a realistic novel, so I want to say it is historical fiction. A Talmudic scholar who escapes from Russia because of the pogroms, and he comes to New York. He's a greenhorn, rises from the depths of poverty. He also falls from a type of Jewish grace because he has to learn to assimilate. Task number 33, A Book About College. There's two that I highly recommend. As you can see, this one is still flagged because, number one, it's mine. This is not a library book. This is one that I own. And I bought this not too long after the author herself was, actually, no, I think I bought this a few years after she was tragically killed in a car crash on Father's Day. But this is The Opposite of Loneliness by Marina Keegan. And it's essays and stories that she wrote while she was in college. And I think she was, I don't know if this was valedictorian or if this was the speech. I don't know what this is doing in here. Life Lessons from Marina Keegan's posthumous book of essays. Yeah, her final essay for the Yale Daily News went viral, receiving more than 1.4 million hits, called The Opposite of Loneliness. And this is these are actually all the life lessons that come from that particular book. There's 4 or 5. So this one is, don't be afraid to recalibrate your goals. You're not alone in thinking you're unworthy. Just keep it in perspective. You don't have to pursue goals that you despise. And number 4, value life and all of it. So I highly recommend The Opposite of Loneliness by Marina Keegan if you haven't had a chance to read it. Some of the essays I really loved, and others were like, I'm not even quite sure if I want to go in that direction. The other one I have, of course, is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a woman who, she was born in the mountains of Idaho, and she was part of a generation that believed in Y2K. You know, Y2K came and went, and she's like, was I lied to this entire time? So she's been sort of sheltered in this place where the family does not want anyone else to leave. What does Tara do? She defies them. Through rigorous risks and challenges, she's able to get away from home, and she goes across to Harvard and to Cambridge University. It's a memoir, a personal account of the struggle for self-invention. I highly recommend this one. The one that I haven't read yet that I do have a copy of is Evelyn, I really hope I get the last name right, Evelyn Waugh, Brideshead Revisited. It does have to do with a college and 3 friends. This could also match possibly with book task Number 2, a book that features a platonic friendship between a man and a woman. A book with pop or sugar in the title. I have not found any that I want to read yet, so if you guys can make some suggestions in the comments, please let me know. A book featuring a character with a hidden past. Here we go. We have Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosnay. This one is called The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish. So it takes place, I believe it takes place from the main 17th century past to contemporary modern day London, possibly. And again, these are mostly books that I own, and I want to get through all of my books, and I'm going to ask myself now, do I reshelve them or do I move them on? A book set in Michigan or written by an author from Michigan. So I may have to read the book again, but the story was phenomenal. And it was sort of a precursor to how we dealt with COVID-19. Who saw that coming? This book was so far ahead of its time that I don't think we were really prepared to think about it. So Station 11, I would definitely recommend that one. Now, I had no idea that Arthur Miller was from Michigan. I read The Crucible, but I have not read Death of a Salesman. So I might want to check that one out. A book that is less than 260 pages. So I've heard of Joan Didion. I recently started researching her, and someone suggested this one, The Year of Magical Thinking. It's a portrait of marriage, life in good times, bad, and so on and so forth. A book about your favorite event in the Winter Olympics. I've loved ice skating since I was a kid, and I've read all of my skating books. So if there's a book on ice skating, I definitely will need to check that out. Can some of you recommend some good ice skating books? I read all the books by Olympian figure skater Scott Hamilton. Somewhere in my public storage space, I have, I think the memoir is called Sergei and Me by Ekaterina Gordieva. It was about her life with her partner and husband, Sergei. And he dropped dead of a heart attack right there on the ice. That was a huge shock. So she's been raising their daughter, Dasha, since that time. A love story that defies social boundaries. Pride and Prejudice, that was number 1. But I want to see if these other ones that I have could also fit the bill. And a few of these I have not read yet. So one of these I highly recommend, and I would love to reach out to this author here. The House of Tennyford. This has to do with the spring of 1938, and it's about a Jew who comes to England from Vienna, and she is to be a parlor maid to this great estate at Tennyford. The war is coming, and the maid happens to fall in love with the master of Tennyford's young son, Kit. This one, it could be, or it could also be about a sexless marriage, but this one is by Isaac Bashevis Singer, and it's called Enemies, a Love Story. The way that I was reading the back of what the book was about, it kind of reminds me of the film A Letter to Three Wives. So it says, almost before he knows it, Herman Broder, refugee and survivor of World War II, has 3 wives. Jadwiga, the Polish peasant who hid him from the Nazis, Masha, his beautiful and neurotic true love, and Tamara, his first wife, miraculously returned from the dead. So, astonished by each new complication and yet resigned to a life of evasion, Herman navigates a crowded Yiddish New York with a sense of perpetually impending doom. So, this is the first of Singer's novels to be set in America. And then there's the one that I gave to a friend of mine to do some research on, and this one is called The Servants' Quarters by Lynn Freed. And it's interesting how some compare this to a Beauty and the Beast kind of a tale. So this is one I haven't read, and I also haven't read this one yet. Let's go to task number 35, a book that makes you want to travel to Italy. So right off the bat, I mean, I have plenty of art books about the Italian artists. There's another novel, Under the Tuscan Sun. But then it never occurred to me that I could use this one. The Secret Book of Grazia de Rossi. Historical novel with a Renaissance Jewish heroine, sort of like a type of Renaissance Scarlett O'Hara. So imagine that. Now this one also says Heather's Pick. I guess this is another type of book club that I haven't heard about, but I could. This is part of my Jewish collection. A book I meant to read in 2025. What book have I not meant to read in all of the challenges? So there's a few here. I didn't get to read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Teresa Capito's There's More to Life Than This. I want to read this one so bad. The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. This one is called The Alchemy of Illuminated Poetry by Gianna Michaels. And then, of course, we have The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. All right. Oh, yeah. And I bought Amy Tan's latest one, and it does match with one of the book tasks here. A book that features birding. So I have Amy Tan's, her latest publication, I believe. I'm not sure if she published another one. But this one is called The Backyard Bird Chronicles. And these are her own illustrations. Not too long after she was diagnosed with Lyme disease, she started doing all of these beautiful outdoor illustrations. And I had no idea that she did this. It just happened to, I think I saw it on Facebook or Instagram or something. But it's absolutely, oh, it's so cool. Now, Medieval Medicine, Its Mysteries and Science. This meant something to do with fruit? Yeah, book task number 38. A book with any type of fruit on the cover or in the title. So this one has a bunch of what appears to be, and I think it's fruit. The little bushes in the front. I think the one in the middle could be that one. Or I have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it's a red book, but it's illustrated by the famous duo Mina Lima. And on the front cover, I believe it shows the poisoned apple. So that could also be a possibility. A book that starts with the letter Z. The book on Z for Zelda, I think is a personal favorite. A book about women astronauts. I haven't checked up on that yet. If you can recommend any books about women astronauts, please leave a comment below. I definitely would recommend two that fall under this particular book task, and they are both great stories. Book task number 6, a book with an overweight main character whose story isn't about losing weight. Guaranteed one of the best that I've ever read. The Little Giant of Aberdeen County. This is a young girl who grows up. She has some sort of a birth defect that makes her bigger than her feminine peers, but she has a particular talent for reading magical messages in embroidery. Last I checked. That's all that I can recall for right now. The other one that's a more modern and contemporary is Talia Hibbert's Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So those are two. Since I've read those two already, I want to read a new one. Book number 7, they need to change this, I think. A book about a granny hobby. And they mention embroidery. They mention, I love, I think they have their own YouTube channel. Grandma's on Safari. Hey, age is but a number. And a granny hobby, I'm sorry, but I guess that's referring to what women used to do, what they were old, I hate really saying that word, spinsters, and they wanted to have, like the type of granny figure. If you want to know about 6 women who defied the granny hobby, watch this documentary called Fabulous Fashionistas. These women take it to the max and beyond. They're not going to sit at home and don socks. They are not doing that. From what I can tell, Mahjong. There's a book about Mahjong and tips on how to practice it and how to play it, possibly. I have plenty of books on embroidery, so those could also be a type of hobby. A book about a sexless marriage. Oh boy. I believe there's a book I checked out called Hard on Us, and I believe it's a personal memoir account, or the title might be something different. I'll need to look back at my checklist and see. A book with a type C character. A type C character is very meticulous. Think Hercule Poirot, for instance. It's a Jewish book with Southern drawl. I hope I say it right. The Ladies' Auxiliary by Tova Mervis. Memphis Orthodox Jews, one with ripe tradition and contradiction. It could be. But a type C character who is very meticulous. This is someone who practices types of methods, and Orthodox Judaism definitely has to keep with kashrut, which is kosher. So this one here could possibly fit the bill. A book about teen angst. Where do I begin? Catcher in the Rye, definitely. You have The Pigman and the Pigman's Legacy by Paul Zindel. I've already read a book about teen angst, and it's the book that I read for the year before, and it's called Donuts and Other Proclamations of Love. It has to do with a senior in high school who is going through a bunch of changes, and everything is sort of thrust upon him. At once, he's trying to keep his cool, and things start to unravel from there, but it's a highly recommend that one. But if you have any suggestions, please leave a comment. A book with a character who does Pilates. I heard of Pilates or Legree. Well, unless you're talking about Simon of Legree, I've never heard of this method of exercise. I have absolutely no idea. I have a couple of books that I've checked out from one author whose book, Fun Home, a Tragic Comic, I did read a couple of challenges ago. And it's something to do with how to achieve superhuman strength. And I believe it's a graphic novel, if I'm not mistaken. 21, a book about a bachelor trip. I have no titles for this one. Please let me know in the comments below. A book about postpartum. It's interesting, even though this has to do with blooming and a bouquet. Some of these are very dark. I'm very surprised. A book about postpartum. So this is after birth, where women go through a sudden change and they go through a type of postpartum depression. It has to do something with the hormonal changes. Their body is trying to get back to where it was before pregnancy. Now, I believe the book I checked out has to do with postpartum. I do not know the title of it. It is on my list. 25, a book that explores influencer culture. I've seen several. Can some of you give me some titles that I can look into? Number 27, a book with a character who has curly hair. I've heard a few. Anne of Green Gables? Really? I haven't read any of them, but I was told that character has curly hair. Number 28, a book about debt. Go to Charles Dickens for these titles because they're all about debt. You have Bleak House and you have Little Dorrit. In David Copperfield, when David is sent to inner London, you could say, where he's sent to work in the factories, he stays with the Micawber family. Their family is always in debt. And Charles Dickens drew upon his own personal experience with poverty and debt when his own father was sent to debtor's prison. So I definitely could see how he drew where he was drawn back to the past to write about it. But definitely Bleak House and Little Dorrit, those two I haven't read, but they do have to do with poverty and debt. 29, a book that takes place during harvesting season. I didn't check, but I do have a book. Never read it. And I think I was either 3 or 5 when I saw my dad cry for the first time in my life. We watched the film The Yearling with Gregory Peck and Jane Wyman, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the kid's name. But that was a tearjerker from the beginning to the end. And I have the book by Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. Here we have the little boy. He finds this motherless fawn. It's about the two of them growing up. And it does take place during certain times of the harvest season. But because he's raising a deer, do you think the deer is going to stay in its pen? No. And the yearling is sort of an interesting parallel between the young boy and the fawn that grows into a deer. There's a few tragedies. If this is going to be as dramatic as it was portrayed in the movie, I might need some time on this one, possibly. A book about an underwater civilization. Now, it doesn't say fiction or nonfiction, but throughout the world, there are particular underwater civilizations, and we have a real one. I've had this book for a very, very long time, called Stellwagen Bank, A Guide to the Whales, Seabirds, and Marine Life of the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. And I'm all about maritime history and whales and sea life, so this is a definite keeper for that one. 34, a book with a trans or non-binary protagonist. I don't have any titles that I can think of right now, and I would love your suggestions below. 36, a book about a mob, fiction or nonfiction. So there's like the Italian mobs. There's the St. Valentine's Day Massacre with the mafias there. I like nonfiction, but not if it doesn't interest me. So I might want to wait on this one till the end. Who knows? A book about a pop star. Talk to me. Book task number 39. A book with a character who runs a marathon. This was a book that I originally was going to read for the 2025 reading challenge, and I didn't get to. But I found this one fits the bill. The End of the World Running Club. We have this man who is overweight. I don't know if this has to do with him losing weight. I don't think it does. So it could possibly meet with book task number 6, a book about an overweight main character whose story isn't about losing weight. I literally just started this like 2 days ago. And let me just put it to you this way. If you've ever seen Deep Impact, where an asteroid hits the Earth at the end of the film, and you see who survives and who doesn't. Well, imagine Deep Impact number 2, the aftermath or something. That's exactly what's happening here. And it takes place, to my surprise, in Scotland. So this looks interesting. But it's about this, so far, it's about a family of 4. The conflict from the very beginning. No one had time to react. But it kind of reminds me of doomsday preppers who are trying to look out for their own families. You have a mob of people who are trying to get, stuff for themselves or for their own families. So they've been stuck in their underground cellar for 2 straight weeks. But it's 3 months after the fact, after the asteroid impact on Earth. So I've yet to see how the rest of the book reads out. And I forgot to mention a little Harry Potter thing here. This is a bookmark I got from Kohl's. And I've never seen a bookmark like this. It has a 90-degree folded edge. So you slip it in like this, and the owl looks like it's sitting on top of the book. A book outside your comfort zone. Okay, so this is a few of the books that I'm not interested in reading at all. I could read a romance novel where it gets really erotic, but I don't think those images are ever going to leave me. Psychological thrillers, if it gets to a point where I can envision it like a movie camera, and I could see every gory detail or something, or the dialogue that is like threatening, I can't. So psychological horror, murder mysteries are not really my thing. Those books I definitely would have to keep off to the side. I have read a few books by Stephen King. I did read, oh boy, talk about one that really just had me on the edge was, he actually collaborated, and I forgot who the other author was, but it was called Gwendy's Button Box. Woo! Yeah, that one, it was interesting. Would I keep it on my shelf? No. The Green Mile, on the other hand? Hell yes. That was, so far, of the books of Stephen King that I have read, that one is my #1 favorite. Duma Key was going somewhere. That was so cool. And then, at the last 5 to 6 chapters, I got completely lost and it got way too gory for me. So, who knows? I might have to read Duma Key again because I think I missed something. A book in a different format than your usual. So my usual is, as you can see, most of them are physical books. Ebooks are okay, but I do not like too much screen time. Audiobooks. Now, as a kid, I used to read along with the cassette tapes, and, you know, it followed every word. At least I had the book in front of me, and I wasn't listening to, I was just following along so I could read better. But audiobooks are not really my thing. The only audiobook that I do have as part of my collection is 1984. It's a dramatized performance version with Andrew Garfield, Cynthia Erivo, Andrew Knott, and Tom Hardy. So that was, oh my God. That one, you cannot be doing anything. You have to be sitting still and just take it all in. It's like audio drama. And it's hard for me to sit still and listen when there's no visual. If my usual is physical or ebooks, audio would be a challenge. A book inspired by a real song, album, band, or artist. I'm not sure which book I have listed. I will have it listed here. But I've heard of a few, and I think Darling Desi mentioned this one. The revival of Opal and Nev. And then there's a few others, like Rolling in the Deep. But I don't know if the book came before or after. I think, I think that there's one called Daisy Jones and the Six, maybe? And I think there's another title that I have listed down somewhere. Now, this is where I'm going to need help, you guys. 43 and 44. 2 books written by real-life partners or spouses. And it was already listing a few that I had never heard of. The only ones that I do know that have written books are Stephen King and Tabitha King. That's it. So if anyone else can give me some titles to consider, let me know. 46, a sapphic comic, and I forgot which one I had. I will have the title here. But again, and I forgot what sapphic refers to. 48, a book with a shadow daddy. Again, this is a new term I never heard of, but a shadow daddy, a father figure who is very much in the background, you almost never see this character, but this character has a type of power and confidence. Think of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's father in the modern age. So a book that I do have as a possible book to check out is Belladonna. Never heard of this one, but all the titles from this author have to do with flowers. Another one that I was also considering is one that's been taking the world by storm, and it's called Onyx Storm. Has anyone read that one? Let me know. 49, a book with a mention of your zodiac sign. So I'm not sure which book I have for that one, but I do have something about Sagittarius, but I might want to get a guidebook on Sagittarius. 50, I'll need to check another book for this one, but I do have a recommendation for number 50, a book about Afrofuturism. Check out Nakati Okorafor's Zara the Windseeker. That book was so contemporary and so different, so unique, but it definitely is a book about a girl with long black hair. She kind of reminds me of the characters from Avatar, the long hair where they attached it to the roots of Awa or something, and they're able to connect from their history, their ancestry through their long hair once it's connected. So that's the book task for the reading challenge. Next part of the video will be my reading challenge. Stay tuned. Okay, so now that I've gone over the PopSugar reading challenge, I actually did a short video on my own Book Dragon reading challenge that I created back in 2024. So you go to my website, becca-b.com. You can find the Book Dragon Challenge tab. If you click on that, you can print out. There's two versions. There's this one, which I believe is, I don't know if it's Algerian font or some kind of manuscript font. I'm not sure. There's 26 book tasks in here. The first 15 have to do with words in the title. So, a book with dragon or dragons in the title. Task 2, a book with wings, or winged in the title. A book with scale or scales in the title. A book with fires, or fiery in the title. A book with armor or spike in the title. A book with flying, or flight in the title. A book with tail, T-A-I-L, tails or tailed in the title. A book with teeth. I can also include tooth if you want. That's totally fine. Fang or fangs in the title. A book with horn or horns in the title. A book with claws, or clawed in the title. A book with readers, or reading in the title. A book with burns, burned, or burning in the title. A book with flames, or a flame in the title. A book with breath, breathe, or breathing in the title. And finally, a book with challenge, challenges, challenged, or challenger in the title. So let's kind of go over the first 15. So this one here, let's go over a book that I also started reading for the last year's challenge. I didn't get to finish it. This one here is Ex Libris. In the subtitle, it says 100 Books to Read and Reread by Michiko Hakutani. So this talks about the 100 plus books to read and to reread again. Some of them I have read and some of them I have not. So this one marks off book task number 11 from my book challenge. This is Deanna Michaels' book. I have yet to read this. I just have not had any time, but I would like to. This one is called Mindel and the Misfit Dragons. This is her own handwritten and illustrated manuscript style book that she sent to me. So this marks off book task number 1, a book with dragon or dragons in the title. I have for task number 23, a story about a library or a librarian. These two can fit the bill. This one is called The Personal Librarian, and this was the librarian to J.P. Morgan, if I'm not mistaken. This one here I want to say that it does fit the bill. This is called Dewey, the small town library cat who touched the world. And I forgot which library is this? The Spencer Public Library. This one fits with number 24, a mythology book about or that includes dragons. And this is a collector's item right here. This is Bullfinch's Mythology. This goes over the ages. So let's just like the age of fables. So we have the Greek and Roman times, the age of chivalry from King Arthur and his knights. And some of these I've never even heard of. The Mabinogian? I have no idea. Hero myths of the British race, like Beowulf, for instance, and Robin Hood. Finally we end with the legends of Charlemagne. So these include dragons. This one here, we have the Horn of Roland. I have several books on medievalism, and the Horn of Roland is one of them. So this marks off what I have for book task number 9, a book with horn or horns in the title. I want to say from after 16 it definitely would be the books that are more advanced. A banned or challenged book written by a living author. Why is this book challenged? Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb? You tell me. Why? It's the inaugural poem for the country. This one is called I Just Lately Started Buying Wings. Missives from the Other Side of Silence. So if I'm not mistaken, this has to do with, or maybe this is a different one. I know I have a book about something with wings. The title begins with wings and it has something to do with student essays. But it looked like it started with the same title. I could be wrong. But then again, wings. This one marks off book task number 2. A book with wings, or winged in the title. And I took ballet for about 8 years, but I have been in love with ballet since I was a toddler, since I was able to dance. And I love this. On Wings of Joy, the story of ballet from the 16th century to today. Love of my life. And this one here, oh my God. This one actually meets book task number 16, a book with a dragon on the cover. And I have here a Tolkien bestiary. And there's a dragon right there on the cover. And there's a few others that also have a dragon on the cover, like Christopher Paolini's Aragon, plus the I think it's called the Aragon trilogy. So I definitely would recommend those ones. So I already went over the book tasks for 1 through 16 plus a few others. So I'll just go over 17 to the end. Book task 17, a book that was historically burned. Well, when you talk about the most historically burned book in history, especially when it came to Germany and the burning book frenzy that took place there, the Talmud was the top book that was burned in the streets, or burned right up in the Jewish libraries of the time. But I already have I believe I have a copy of the Talmud, but I wanted to read something I haven't read yet. So a book that was historically burned, one of them is Slaughterhouse-Five, which I have never read. So, any takers on that one? Let me know what you think. A fiction or nonfiction book about book burning. I do have a book that's on hold from the library, and it's simply called The Library Book. And apparently, the public library was set ablaze. I want to say it was 1986, possibly? A story about a dragon as the main character. Anyone here a fan of Easy Cat? I love Easy Cat's library. And he did reveal a few of the dragon books. And I forgot which one that was called. Book Task 21, a story about dragons used as guidance or for war. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I hope I say the title right, there's this series called Tenefer or Tenerer. And I forgot who the author is, but the first book in the series is His Majesty's Dragon. And this series has to do with the Napoleonic Wars, but instead of ships and instead of other types of warriors, they have dragons as tools for war. Book Task 22, a book with an image of a burnt book or burnt pages on the cover. And for the life of me, I did have a book that I checked out years ago that did have that. I will have the title up here because it's on my library list. There you go. Number 25, choose a book to read recommended by a YouTube content creator. You can look at my channel, you can look at Easy Cat, you can look at Becca and the Books, or any other YouTuber that you find interesting. Why not check them out? I love Easy Cat, and I'm going to see about checking out one of the books that he recommends. 26, choose a book genre that you normally wouldn't read about. So that kind of like ties in to the PopSugar Reading Challenge list, where it says a book outside your comfort zone. I don't want to say that romance books are out of my comfort zone. I wouldn't mind reading them. That could be a possibility. But it is like a romance genre I usually don't really read, so that could possibly fit the bill. But again, another one has to do with psychological horror and murder mysteries to a point where it doesn't get too vividly descriptive. I keep remembering the episode on Friends where Rachel and Joey trade off each other's books. She gives him Little Women and he gives her The Shining. So The Shining is one of those books by Stephen King that I have not read. I meant to. There are a few on here that I do have listed that are in the library that I am getting. I will have to have the rest of them on here. Here's the one about scale or scales. Little Fires Everywhere was written by Celeste. I can't think of the woman's last name, but I read her first one, Things I Never Told You. Too close to home. So I'm not sure if I can handle Little Fires Everywhere. Jude Devereaux, A Knight in Shining Armor for book task number 5. I think I have a book on flight. Whichever book that is, I will have it here. Oh, a book with teeth, tooth, fang, or fangs in the title. So Jack London's White Fang is one of them. But the one I chose is a play by Thornton Wilder that I've never read. And it's called The Skin of Our Teeth. If you've read that, let me know. Maybe kind of give me, don't give it away, but maybe give me a little bit of a blurb, if you can. A book with claws, or clawed. A book with, let's see, flames, or a flame. I forgot which one that was. I will have it here. A book with challenge, challenges, challenged, or challenger. So, if you are into space, read about the Challenger explosion. But the one I am checking out from the library is called The Boys Who Challenged Hitler. A book with burn, burns, burned, or burning in the title. For sure, I am checking out by Mark Lawrence, The Book That Wouldn't Burn. A few people that I've seen on YouTube have read it. I would love to hear your thoughts. But I saw that and I'm like, oh, that gets me going. So my question is, which of these will I finish first, if at all? So wish me luck and keep reading my book, Dragons. Let's see how this year fares. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.